Hello. Good evening, everyone. Tonight we're going to talk about emotional health. Now, I'm not trying to get into any kind of diagnosis. I'm not a doctor. I'm not saying, if you have a disease such as bipolar or anything like that, that you should stop taking medicine and turn to natural healing. I'm not saying anything like that. So before we even get started, I just want to say that I'm not trying to say any oils should take a place of a prescription, or that you should stop taking medication or anything like that. So please, before I even start on this, let's just make sure that we understand that. I want to be very compliant, and we're going to talk about how to stay above the wellness line, which means we're going to talk about how to help ourselves stay healthy. We're not talking about specific diseases or specific things, but we're going to talk about our overall general emotional health. Now, how many of you have had something happen in your past that when you smell a certain smell or you hear a certain song, that it takes you right back to that memory? Like immediately you can remember it. I have several things that do this for me. Like, I don't know how you grew up, but when I was growing up, whenever we had dinner, we sat down and we ate dinner and weren't allowed to get up from the table until our dinner was gone. And you didn't get to ask for something else because you didn't like something. And I hated sauerkraut. And my dad would make sauerkraut, and just the smell of that, even to this day, makes me feel physically ill. Like, I feel like I'm going to throw up if I ever just smell the smell of sauerkraut. And that's because it takes me back to that memory of having to sit there and eat sauerkraut. Or when I make cookies, there's these certain chocolate oatmeal cookies that I make, and every single time I make them and smell them, I remember one winter when I had some friends over and my mom made these cookies for us, and we made snow ice cream, and we had these cookies, and it's just such a happy memory. So when I smell these cookies, I immediately go back to that memory. And there's a lot of things that can trigger memories for us. I do not know why my phone keeps switching. Hope it's not being too distracting. So a lot of things in our lives, just these memories that we store, are from emotional times, and it gets stored in our body. And there are things that will trigger these memories, and smells are one of the things that can trigger memories for us. There's been studies done to show that emotional trauma actually gets stored in our body. It actually stays there, gets stored there, and it stays with us our whole life until we can release that energy that we have from that trauma. I want to read you, see if I can find this quote here. There's a doctor at Georgetown University says that repressed trauma caused by an overwhelming emotion can be stored in your body and can affect our ability to feel that part or even move it. Like, kids who are abused, maybe they don't speak, or it somehow affects their body, it affects their health. Things that happen to us in our past, if we hold on to that trauma, it gets stored in our body and it comes back later in our health. That's why you hear people who have symptoms and, they're sick or something's going on, and there's no physical reason why they should be sick or why they should be having that trouble. And it all goes back to our emotional problems and how it gets stored in us. Now, the Bible talks about incense and prayer, and how when people were trying to get close to God, they would burn incense, and the smell would help them calm their minds, focus on God, and just be able to connect. And I feel like, still to this day, there are oils that we can use to help us focus, calm our mind, and focus on God, and just kind of still our mind and quiet our bodies. And we can still do that as a way to get closer to God. There's also oils that help with different emotions. Things like anger and anxiety, stress, forgiveness, irritability, all of these emotional things that are within us. Oils can be used to help control those and help calm those. Now, so I'm going to tell you a little story. I had something happen in my life that kind of hung with me for a long time. And even though I didn't think that it really affected me, things would happen and I would get real upset or real defensive, and I didn't know why. And I was able to trace it back to something in my childhood. And I realized how much that was affecting me as an adult. This thing that I had experienced a long time ago. Something that, it was one day. It was one thing that happened. And it just really stays with you. And you get to a point where you can't get past it. And I know that I used oils to help me get past this. There's oils called forgiveness. There's oils called release, to help with emotional release. So I started looking into this whole idea of emotional release. And there's a couple of books that I want to share with you. All right, this one, I know it's backwards for you. Sorry. It's called Heal Your Body. It's by Louise Hay. The Mental Causes for Physical Illnesses and the Metaphysical Way to Overcome Them. And it talks about how these traumas and these emotions can get stored in our body. And we have to find a way to let it go, to release it, or it will cause physical problems. Here's another book. This one's called Feelings Buried Alive Never Die by Carol Trueman. This is another one that can help you work through some of the things that you've had in your past that are holding you back in your future. People who have migraines, people who have depression, people who have pains that they're not sure where they come from, like anger. Anger and resentment are stored in your liver. So if you're having liver issues, a lot of people who are angry have liver issues. And it's just amazing how certain emotions can get held in certain parts of your body. Here's another one. It's called Releasing Emotional Patterns with Essential Oils. Now, I'm going to tell you, you didn't put the oil on one time and, hey, you're healed of your emotional past. No. But between using the oils and praying is a huge part of it. The oil, first off, if you don't believe, it's not going to work. It's kind of like a mental thing, The oils are from God. And when you put them on, you pray to God and say, Lord, help me get over this. Help me get past this struggle in my life. Because all of these emotional things that we deal with are going to cause physical ailments if we don't deal with them in the appropriate way. We don't want to just store it and keep it inside of us. We want to be able to release it and let it go. We want to be able, through prayer and through using the oils, to be able to say, I release this. I'm not hanging on to it. I'm going to let it go. It's going to God and it's done. And get past these traumas in our life. Whether it's abuse, whether it's, a bad marriage, whether it's anything in your past. Maybe it was just one thing that somebody said at one time and it has stayed with you for years. Whatever it is causing you mental anguish, is causing you anxiety, is causing you these pains or these physical symptoms. Find a way to let it go. And prayer and meditation, reading your Bible, drawing close to God, using the oils, those are all ways that you can let go of this. So I'm not really going to go into too much more. I'm not going to show you specific oils for specific things, but I will tell you that we have oils just for pretty much anything you're experiencing. I know that I've used like forgiveness, release, inner child, present time. I mean, there's a lot of these oils that I've used because between them and praying, I've been able to move past some of these emotions that were holding me back. Some of these things that were keeping me from being happy. Even though I didn't realize, I didn't understand, why am I not happy? Why am I not, I have a wonderful husband, I have a wonderful family, I have a good job. Why am I not happy? And it went back to something in my past. And I hope that all of you can find release. I hope that you can deal with emotions and trauma in your past and get to a place where you can move forward. That's what's best for us. That's best for our health. I wish you all a good night, and we will see you next Tuesday.